Can you guess how long it's taking me to make about 26 pouches? In this video, I'm going to share with you how quickly or how slow is the process that I'm currently using to complete this product line, this new collection that I want to launch this month. And how long is it really taking me to make these pouches? This is definitely a work in progress type of video. This is part 2 of the behind the scenes process on how to make a collection of handmade pouches. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, I will add the link to that video at the end of this video so you can watch that. In part 1, I talked more about this process on deciding what to make and the design process that goes behind the scenes. But today, I am going to share with you how I decided to actually make the bags, because we selected the fabric. I do have some final fabrics that I decided to definitely use, and some others I said they're probably better for the spring. So you will see that at the end when I launch the collection, right? Like which fabrics I chose. Now, if you look behind here, you can see one of the fabrics I chose because it's more like a fall color. So I really want to stick with that theme, okay? Because it's for the fall. So let's get started. I wanted to be able to save time and make these pouches as fast as possible because I have a deadline, which I already missed the first deadline. I wanted to launch really this week, and now I'm behind. So I said, well, the best way I think to make these pouches faster is by completing one process for all the pouches at once. Then when I'm done with that step, then the next step, kind of like a production line, right? So what I did is that I took the fabric and I pressed the fabric, all of them at once. Then I added the interfacing. I did add the interfacing to the entire piece of fabric. And I know I can already hear why, because, and I've done it too. I like to add the interfacing just for the piece of fabric that I'm going to use because I like to use those little scraps of interfacing, woven interfacing, and I have a whole basket of them, okay? But I needed to save time. And if I start cutting this and then cutting the other and then cutting, that was going to be too much. So if I just press it and press it all and cut it all at once, it did save me some time in that sense. And those little scraps of fabric that are already interfaced, I'm just putting them aside and I will use them for another project in the future. So they're not completely wasted, right? But I followed that. Then cut all of the fabric, all of the pattern, the small, medium, and large. Then the woven, no, not woven, a fusible fleece. Some of them have fusible fleece, some of them don't. So in that case, I did cut that separately. But again, I counted how many medium, how many large, how many minis I had. And the number of pieces I had was really based on the fabric. Okay. A lot of the fabric I had, I could only make like 2 minis or a large and a mini, or maybe I could make 3 of the same color. So really had to, not all of the fabrics I will have all the sizes. I only cut really what I had available for that color or for that print, for that fabric. So based on that, I knew I had to cut 5 medium or 6 small or 4 large, whatever I had. Okay, so here it is how it looks after cutting all of the fabric together. This is how I organize it. Now, keep in mind, I still have to cut the zippers and I still have to cut some of the binding to finish the bag on the inside of the bag. Okay, so I haven't cut that yet. I will have it ready before I start sewing, but this is how it looks. I have them all here on this little drawer box thing that I have. And usually I take the exterior and it's already with the interfacing. My ripstop, okay, doesn't need interfacing. The little piece for the tab, the binding for the zipper area, and the zipper tabs. So each one of these are like this in little bundles like this, okay? Each one. Then I have my clear vinyls that I cut already. So I needed 5 mediums, 3 large, and I needed 6 small. The other steps that are part of the prepping process are adding any of your hardware. So if you have any tabs, any magnetic snaps, anything that it needs to be ready before you assemble your bag, this is the time to get it done. So in my case, I had the tabs that I was using faux leather, and for those I needed to add the magnetic snap, and I also wanted to edge coat, paint the edges of the faux leather. And the painting could take, an hour or two to dry. So I needed to get that done before I start sewing. Once I knew all of that was done, and I'll be honest with you, not everything was done because as I was starting to sew, I realized I didn't put the magnetic snap on this one, or I didn't put the tab on this one. So this is truly a process that it's trial and error. I'm just trying it, and I'm realizing, okay, maybe I could do better on this area or the other area, but that's how I did it. That's when I wanted to make sure that all of it was done before I got started. When it's time to make them, I'm doing the same thing. I'm following, like, I'm attaching the zippers on both sides. I'm adding the lining, and I'm adding the clear plastic, right? That's where I am stopping, because I've noticed, since this is my pattern, and I made a couple of prototypes already, I actually had to take apart some of those prototypes because I realized that there were some measurements that were not adding up. And so I made the very first one of the medium, only one, okay, so that I can make sure my measurements are correct, and they are in this case. And I also made a large one, the same thing, just making sure my measurements were accurate. Other than that, it's working very well. So all of the small ones, the small pouches, I have them all ready. All I'm doing now is putting the clear plastic or the clear lining on the inside, and that's it. That is going to be the last step, and I will be able to finish all of the mini ones. And so the entire process of making all of the mini ones at once together was probably um, 2 to 3 hours, which I think is saving me time because it actually takes about a couple of hours to just make one. So I think it's working out, but I will try. I'm not going to promise, but I will try to time myself for the next round when I make the rest of the medium and the rest of the large ones. I have a little confession. Cutting the fabric is my least favorite part of the sewing process. Now, sewing is not just being in front of the sewing machine sewing. Sewing includes everything: cutting the fabric, pressing the fabric to the interfacing, cutting the pattern, measuring it. I mean, all the things that you have to do before you can sit in front of the sewing machine to cut, to sew. So this 2 weeks of me cutting fabric, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I'm going to. I'm going to continue to do it this way in a sense that I will cut everything and then start sewing. That's how it's supposed to be anyway. You want to have everything ready to make sure you have all your materials before you start sewing, and make sure you have everything. But I'm not going to cut 30 of these things at once. I think I will cut maybe three and take a break. Then start sewing the three I cut the week before. And when I'm done sewing those, I'll pick up the ones I cut, I start sewing those, and I cut three more. And so take one day out of the week to cut the fabric, because it's only three of them. I can cut it faster than 28 of them. I think it was 28 at the end or something like that, or 30. I don't even remember how many I cut. I have to count. But it was a lot. It was a lot. So it's up to you. If you want to spend an entire week just cutting 50 of these things, and now keep in mind, I'm cutting these in an hour here, 2 hours there. I don't really have a full 4 or 5 hours where I sit down and just cut the fabric. I have to like sprinkle it in between my other responsibilities. So I don't know if that makes it better or worse for me. I really don't know. But it's up to you. My suggestion still is do cut as much as you can. Make sure you have all your materials, your hardware, your notions, everything. And then start sewing. And if you feel like, oh, this color may be better or whatever for another one, then cut those separately, have all of that ready, however long it takes you, and then you continue with the sewing process. That's bottom line, my advice. So, as you can see, nothing is perfect. I'm still in the process of finishing up these pouches. I still have some other fabric that I cut, but I don't have the lining and I don't have the clear plastic, the clear vinyl. So I'm going to finish these ones first, the ones with the fall kind of colors. And then I have some others set aside, which I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, which is like make these three and then cut some other ones later and make those and then cut some other ones later. So I don't just bug myself down with just making one thing for an entire week. I just cannot do that. Plus, there are so many other things that go behind the scenes when you're running a business, like posting on social media, the emails, um, fulfilling an order, I'm taking a class, etc. Now, talking about emails, if you want to be the first one to see when I launch this collection, I've added a link down in the description of this video for you to check it out. Just put your information there and I'll send you an email when this collection goes live. And as I promised at the beginning of this video, here is part one of the behind the scenes process of making a handmade product collection. See you in the next video. Ciao.